Welcome to the first episode of the RAG Report podcast. This is going to be a daily bulletin coming from me, Sean Anderson, the CEO and founder of Foxon Media, designed to help recruitment owners around the world navigate through this unprecedented time as we all work out what the hell we're going to do to tackle COVID-19 and survive and thrive as recruitment businesses. Today on the first episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Joe Mullings, the chairman and CEO of the Mullings Group, a US-based headhunting firm with arguably one of the biggest brands in the industry, and someone who I believe has been kind of talking about this quite recently and how we all need to be prepared for what might happen. So someone who makes a lot of noise online, and I think will be able to add a lot of value to my audience. So Joe, thanks for joining me today, mate.
Yeah, so thanks so much, and certainly an honor to be first up at bat here in a super interesting time that the world, not only our industry, has walked into.
100%.
You had mentioned, you had mentioned we are a U.S.-based search firm, but 30% of my book, probably $3 million plus per year, is OUS and in Europe and Asia. So while we're based in the U.S., we've got a very heavy part of our business based OUS as well.
Right, okay. So in terms of that, it's all about medical device technology, right?
Yeah, I would say medical device, life sciences, biotech is what we're leaning into. And our focus is, we're about a 35-person firm now. We've got 20 recruiters on the floor. And this year, we're at a run rate of, on the conservative side, probably $12 million in billings from a search perspective. Right.
Well, look, so you're in I'd say, a very healthy position. Joe, how long have you been in the industry personally?
I got into the business December 4th, 1989 as a headhunter working for Management Recruiters International. I did 2 years. I viewed it as an apprenticeship and what I believe is one of the best well-taught recruiting firms. And then I warned the owner 2 years I'd leave him, and 2 years and 4 weeks to the date, I opened up my own firm down in Miami, Florida.
Wow. Okay. Well, look, I imagine you've been through some tough times in that period. So what we've got to do, and what I'm so passionate about doing in times where, look, I'm still feeling it myself. I haven't been through a financial crisis before, so I'm learning from these conversations too. But let's just start where you are today. What's going on for you right now? How are you even navigating your mind and your business through what's going on today?
Look, first, my people have to come first. It's really easy. And again, you could be a single desk office. You could have a 5-desk office or a 100-desk office. Your people have to come first. What you have to remember is there's going to be another other side to this. And people are going to remember what you did during this most stressful time. And there's that saying as, when you get squeezed, who you are comes out. And so first and foremost, your people have to matter first, and you have to be absolutely last. And that might mean, economics, not taking a check, but yet you're going to pay your people. Because on the other side of this, when you do come out, think about how hard it is, first of all, beyond just being a good human being, how hard it is to find really good teammates who do this business really well. And you may have to tell them, hey, look, I've got to cut the draw in half, but here I want to explain why, or your salary in half. Or perhaps, can we figure out something? I'll keep your draw coming, even though you're not making placements over the next 8 weeks, but we'll figure it out on the back end of this 40 weeks from now. Whatever it is, you've got to put your people first. So that's number one. Within our organization, we've got individuals who have high risk, pregnancy, diabetes, heart failure, and other probably, let's call it, situations that put them at risk. And some of those are still in the office. And some of them are going home. And some have opted to conduct business 6 feet from their teammates all day long. So you've got to not judge anybody on what they're scared to death of right now, because it's their fear, not yours. And as a leader, you need to step in and realize all that, not try and be a tough guy or a tough girl.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. Well, obviously, in the UK today, we're waking up to the news yesterday that the Prime Minister has asked for, well, he's looking at anyone over 70s to remain at home now for potentially a period of 3 to 4 months. We're being told to work from home if possible. No unnecessary travel, and we just know that there's gonna be it's gonna keep moving forward. It's gonna keep progressing. The isolation is gonna keep progressing. If you've got one person at home with who's showing any symptoms, the whole family needs to self-isolate for 14 days. I mean, I've seen some of Trump's messaging, but where are you guys at right now with what you need to do?
We're similar. So we've got isolation and eventually, social distancing. And then there's a reference word now called deep social distancing. So that's going on as well. Obviously trying to introduce as few new people into your circle as possible if they've been traveling or they come from a high-risk area. That's just common sense. Look, we sit in a business that we are able to do it at a distance. And I'm watching people freak out, and I understand that. Just keep in mind, though, that we're one of the few businesses that has been designed to be effective at a distance. Now, overnight, we've been thrown into maybe our peers and teammates also having to be at a distance. But let's just pause for a second and realize that it's a very fluid situation. Let's take this on a day-to-day basis. Let's not freak out. Let's increase our cadence of touch with each other with the tools that we have, the telephone, Zoom, etc. And I'm seeing people online right now get really freaked out about nobody's doing interviews are being canceled, offers are being canceled, put on hold. Yeah, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. This is the time now for you to not base your 2020 business plan on revenue, because that's something right now that you'll have a very difficult time affecting over the next 4 to 8 weeks. So reevaluate and accelerate. Look, maybe this is the time to start building your brand. You've got a lot of free time on your hand. You're choosing not to make calls. I've been sharing with the audience in the recruiting world and the career and company building world, the first companies that come out of a crisis are the ones that have an established brand. And it doesn't matter what category, if it's cars, if it's travel, if it's luxury items, those who have the strong brand come out first. And this is, now we're going to live through it. Now we're going to feel. You know what we're doubling down on? Sean, let me tell you what we've done. I don't have the cameras here, but I'll send it to you. On Sunday night, I had my director of photography come in. I had my one of my top editors come in. I had my assistants come in. We built out a full studio in-house here. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras, and I've got a full switching board. And what we've done is we created a gateway to the medtech community. And we reached out to 40 leaders across the world in the medical device industry. I said, we are about to go in an instant in time fully remote, meaning all the workforce. The very workforce that's going to pull this world out of the shitstorm it's in right now, meaning biotech, life science, and healthcare. Yeah. We reached out to them and said, listen, we're going to go live from our studio. We want you to call in, and we want to be the gateway and the connector. Did you know that nearly 90% of those people leaned in? These are CEOs of billion-dollar companies. They're like, without even asking for permission from their PR firm, we're in. We're in. And so look to be a connector in your community. Don't look for money out of it. Don't look for future JOs out of it. Look to be a connector in your community. You don't need a TV for the people going to roll their eyes right now, have a full media company. You can figure out a way to be a connector in your industry. Look what you're doing right now, my man. You're not looking to make money on this. You are looking to become a connector.
Yeah. And this is, look, I'm using Zoom that costs £19.99p. And I've got my own kit in the office, but it's in the office. I'm not even thinking about that right now. You can write a status on LinkedIn that takes 5 minutes that can reach 20,000 people in a day now. And to me, this is, I think I look at the recruitment sector and I see kind of two types of companies. I see the guys that have got cash backed, or whether that's investment or whether they've been saving, and they're in a position now where they can say, look, we will try and ride this storm and come out of this, like you said, we're going to be a brand that comes out of this stronger. And there's others that are just simply haven't got the backing or the money to, all they can think about is shedding cost. So even those people, in my opinion, can spare or should spare 30 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day to get onto LinkedIn and start talking and just being, like you say, connecting people. giving out insight, sharing tips and hints, and just don't. If you shy away now, you're going to be forgotten about in 3-4 months.
Yeah, look, you bring up a really good point. When I lived through, so I opened up my first office January of '92, and that was probably one of the worst economic times, but we came up during a time that was very difficult. Then I lived through 2000, the dot-com crash. Then I lived through '07, right? And then I lived through 9/11. And markets froze up. I don't care how successful of a search firm you are, markets froze up. And the number one thing I told my search consultants is, you are not the only ones who are afraid right now. There are going to be many, and this was before LinkedIn, and you couldn't reach anybody at scale like you can now, is you need to take every call from every person who comes in, and you need to sit on the phone with them and listen to them. And you will never be forgotten, ever. No. And those dividends paid back. And again, it's not an outbound call. It's not an interview. It's you were just asking people to listen and be there, because they're scared shit too. The entire world is afraid right now. And sometimes we undervalue and underestimate the impact we have on other human beings in the markets that we work in. And it's super critical to keep that in mind. Stop looking for an ROI on every damn thing that you do.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that makes perfect sense. What I would like to know, look, I'm not expecting you to be a medical professional, but the fact is you're well connected in this space. It seems to me like you're in a market where you're going to be talking about these types of risks and what sort of technologies out there. What's your opinion on what's going on and how we're going to get through this?
So again, I'm not a medical expert. I am privy to some pretty high-level conversations with individuals who are sitting at the table. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, especially depending on where you live. In the United States, the next 3 to 4 weeks, it's going to get a lot worse. This is going to hurt. It's going to leave a mark. The problem with the United States is that our egos get in the way, and we seem to think that we're more immune than the rest of the world because we've been living in a bubble. Mm-hmm. You know, this is the first catastrophe that a generation potentially has lived through. If you have not been, at least in your, 8, 9, 10 years old, '01 didn't even register on your brain when we had that situation, that horrible situation with the terrorists on 9/11. So this is an attack coming from everywhere. So it's going to get really bad in the U.S. The good news is there's a lot of smart people working on this. You've seen these estimates that it will go into, the tens of millions that are infected in it, and who knows how this is going to roll out. Depends on who you listen to. But what's beautiful about this is it will be a wake-up call, and we usually in our country and the rest of the world don't harden a target until it's been attacked. So you will see now meaningful digital health come in. You'll see robotics come in. You'll see us not looking to try and build a fire engine when the house is on fire already. So we will start to probably respond as a nation and eventually as a world. But right now, this is going to leave a really bad mark. Economics, lives, and then businesses are going to become sort of collateral damage as well.
100%. Does it mean that your markets are slowing down on recruitment, or are they getting busier?
So our market, I would say on par. We've had an unbelievable month in a positive way. We are touching base with all our hiring managers and see what the plan is. We've had a couple small emerging tech companies put things on hold indefinitely, and we totally understand that, and we're here for them. We've got larger companies that are keeping the ball moving and using tools like GoToMeeting and Zoom to keep the ball in the air. I think being a defined line in my role and your role and people who are really influencers in the industries, and I'm lucky enough to be that we've earned over 30 years, is give guidance but never self-serving. And I think the best guidance you can give to companies is realize there's going to be another side to this. And the other side is you're going to have a choice to already be in motion. And you're going to tell the candidates, the individuals, look, keep the Zoom interviews going. Keep the telephone interviews going. Don't try and take a legacy analog face-to-face interviewing model and overlay it here in a telepresence world that we're probably going to start transitioning to over the next few months, but definitely for the next few months. And so start thinking and ideating and problem solving with your clients about what does that new telepresence look like in the hiring process. And it's going to continue to evolve, but what can you offer today? One of the first things we did is I had my admin team early last week, knowing this was coming, is to secure as many Zoom accounts as possible, that each search consultant would have their own Zoom account to share with their clients to stay ahead of this. And we launched that to our clients well ahead of the curve last week before everything hit the windshield, the windscreen this past weekend.
So if I'm the consultant working for you, I share my account. Therefore, when a candidate speaks to the client, you're using... They don't need their own portal. They can use your portal.
Why? Look, because think about this, Sean, for a second. So on Sunday, everybody was commanded to be at home. And most people are not going to know how to get their own Zoom account. And the corporate office has been shut down. And those corporate offices have admin and ops support people who usually took care of that for them. So now these executives who are making these decisions don't know how to get a Zoom account. And so now you've added a level of friction that they're like, screw it, it's too much of a hassle, until it becomes painful in a week and a half from now, and now you've missed it. So I saw this coming, and so our team proactively secured dozens of those accounts, so then we put them in the hands of our clients in order to, on Monday morning, make sure that we just shifted, for those who were up for it, shifted to keeping that engagement with the marketplace in place. And that's the kind of thinking you need.
Yeah, 100%. We've seen the two video interview platforms. I'm going to be having both of the CEOs of those businesses on the platform. So
Awesome.
On the podcast, we got Ryan McCabe from Odro, and we got Andy Simpson coming in from Hinterview in the next week. They've both seen an absolute boom in activity, of course, and they're racing around the clock to help. I think it's a little bit... It's a bit crazy. I mean, as a business owner, we operate on a semi-remote basis anyway. So we got 50% of our staff work remote. We've used Zoom since day one. Like, we're on Google Chat. We all laptop based. So it's actually had no impact from an operational perspective on me. So were you guys as a business all in the office every day, and has it been a big change, or were you semi working that way anyway?
No, we were all in the office, so I didn't have any remote staff. Our editing team and our operations on our media side made sure that we were prepared, weeks ago when they saw this coming, to make sure our editing team, if they wanted to stay home, could stay home. And in fact, a person opted to, and it's a choice, and that's cool. Yet workflow was less inhibited than if we hadn't been prepared for that. Look, and again, you brought up an interesting point. It's not about you, Sean, and I don't mean that directly at you. Like you said, oh, my team was set up for that. That's cool, but that's not where your bottleneck is right now. Your bottleneck is your clients aren't set up for that.
100%. That's why I'm asking you, because I'm trying to empathize with a problem that I felt like I solved internally 2 years ago. So I was like, is that really a big issue? And then I've looked, in a week, you've seen working from home advice just explode on LinkedIn, and I'm like, well, clearly it is. So I think I always knew, but I didn't think of it quite as... And I remember now, I've walked in a couple of recruitment offices in London in the last 2 months where everyone's on desktop. Mm-hmm. They're not even on laptops. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying at the time, if you send your guys out to meet clients, they can't even work in a coffee shop. Yeah. Like you've limited them to... And they're like, well, we don't really meet our customers or whatever. So I'm like, oh, cool, look, it works for you. But now I'm like, shit. So that leads me on to the next question then, Joe. How do you see your business and other recruitment businesses similar? How are they going to come? Do you think they'll go back to exactly how they were, or is there a potential that this will change the way we operate on an ongoing basis with both our clients and our colleagues?
Yeah. So I think you're going to have a few categories here. Excuse me. That's not a Corona cough, by the way. You're going to have a few clients.
Can't catch it on Zoom anyway.
You're going to have a few you're going to have a few categories. There's going to be one category that even saw this coming and knew that, and you mentioned something here, is let's be careful that we don't get wrapped around the axle on what we make. Let's make sure we understand what we do. And that allows you to remain fluid. And so having a laptop to go visit a client and somebody says, well, we don't visit clients, that's the wrong focus. Having a laptop and the ability to be mobile allows you to flex into a scenario like this. So that's number one. Moving forward, absolutely. If there will be those that see this and grasp this opportunity and use it as a way to design their firm to make sure that their clients have as friction-free possible process moving forward, and will stay on the use of Zoom and GoToMeeting and platforms like that and help the client ideate and design what does the hiring process look like moving forward. Was it really important that I walked in to see what kind of carpeting was in there and what kind of cubicles they sat in there moving forward in order for me to make a decision? And so I think you're going to have 10, 15, 20% of hires made moving forward in the future with companies like ours that will continue to drive that forward as why don't we look at doing things like that? But then you'll have the others that will absolutely, Sean, go right back to the ball and chain that in 3 years they're not going to be in the business anyway. And it didn't necessarily take this crisis to put them out of business. They've been walking dead. Nobody's just decided to where to bury that body yet.
All right, well, direct, but I think you're right there. Let's go back then, Joe. Tell us how you dealt with the 2008 Lehman Brothers. I don't know, how did that affect you personally?
Yeah, that hit us hard. I probably might not have even taken a salary that entire year, even though I was the biggest biller in the organization. As I recall, because I remember the year after that, I went to buy something and they looked for my tax returns and they sucked. So look, you're either deciding to pay your business or you're deciding to pay yourself. You can't do both.
No.
And so for those of you that are on that bubble right now, I don't want to be cavalier here, but it does come down to that. You're either going to pay your business or you're going to pay yourself. You've got to be fiscally responsible. I'm not swimming in money. My organization requires a tremendous burn every month. And this is going to hurt a lot, but we are not going to cut back on that. Who's going to get hurt is me personally, because I am not going to let it affect my business. And so, and the good news is I know that we will morph and slide and wiggle through this and come out the other side tremendously stronger. And then if you keep score on a quarter-to-quarter annual or even an annual basis, you're going to get screwed. I'm on I have a 50-year plan. This is a blip. Mm-hmm. This is a blip in time. I got through 2008 by thinking like that instead of a lot of peers of mine cut the shit out of everything they did. Stop paying draws. I got a new kid who started here 2 weeks ago. I can't spend the time with him. I know owners would have fired him because they're not going to be able to get to him over the next 4 weeks or training him in a market that nobody's taking phone calls. Mm-hmm. It depends on how you think. And are you building for 2020 or are you building for 2040? And that's the kind of thinking that you really need to have in mind. And then, pay yourself last if you plan on being in this business for a long time. And I mean that emotionally, financially, spiritually. Pay yourself fucking last.
Yeah. That I think that's a very important message. I think, again, depending on the size of your organization and how you've been living your life, only you know how that's been personally, what the personal situation has been.
Look, bro, 2008, I'm just thinking about it because I never, we scratch things out of our head. I traded in all my 401k money. I cashed in all my life insurance policies in order to keep this thing going. And I wouldn't even be close to where we are today, nor as influential in the entire recruiting and medical device marketplace had I not done that.
Yeah.
And for a moment, I don't regret one of those moves fiscally.
Did you have many people working for you at the time?
No, I had I think probably 7, and I got 35 today.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a slightly different. Slightly with more people becomes more pressure.
Listen, I have 35 people, but in my mind, I've probably got, if I figure out their families, I've probably got 100 souls that I'm responsible for. That's the way I look at this. It's not just the 35 people who come in the company. It's their kids and their sig others and spouses. And so as you build these organizations, you have an enormous responsibility that you've got to, really own straight up. And so it's over 100 souls I'm responsible for every day.
So if I had a call with someone earlier today who was like, look, Sean, I've got a couple of months of money as if we don't make anything. Of course, I won't pay myself, but at the same time, the burn rate, we just simply won't survive unless we cut heads. Mm-hmm. Have you got any advice for these people that are in that boat now? And I think there's a hell of a lot in that boat right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in that boat right now. And again, I please listen to my message. And none of this is cavalier. None of it is. Look where you do have money. If you're not in love with this industry, you'll walk out of it a lot easier than if you were. And so if I wasn't in love with this industry and I wasn't in love with what I did and I wasn't in love with the people that are on this team, in 2008, it could have been super easy for me to be like, you know what? I got other ways to make X per year. And it would have been really easy for me to walk out. So look, there's going to be people who got into this industry because it was so damn easy to print money for so long that they're in. And now that it's not going to be easy, they're going to choose to get out. But I'm not going to be one of those people that goes, good, get out because there's more for us later. I don't wish that on anybody. It just really matters. Were you born to do this business, and are you in on this business for the long term? So if you're not, listen, get out and go do something else. Don't terrorize yourself because you're going to have a long build-up. Yeah. But if you're in this business and you know it, look around. Look around on where can you get that extra cash? Where can you ask teammates to take a slight haircut? Where can you work with your landlord to maybe push out your rent and be flexible on it downrange a little bit more? There's a bunch of places you can probably shave 20% on your overhead that might buy you that extra 2, 3, 4 months to start getting deals on the board. So you don't just say, shit, I'm going to be done, because you're looking at it on today's spend. So talk to every single one of the people you owe money to, and they would rather not lose you as a customer or a tenant or any of that. They would rather have you, because that cost of acquisition of that person downrange, there's not going to be a lot of people there to pay that rent in 6 months from now, right? So I think you need to look at that too. Look to extend out your lifeline if you want to stay in this business. Figure it out, because it is, if you're meant to do it, it is. There's no other business in the world that's as amazing or fulfilling as this business.
I love that message. I really love that message. What I would say is, in the UK, I know that the mortgages are, there's a lot of banks saying they're going to give mortgage holidays for at least 3 months to people. But I mean, I've spent the last 2 days trying to get hold of my mortgage provider, and they're not answering the phone. So I'm a bit like Italy. I'm hoping the government step in at some point soon because we can't keep lowering what comes in if everything that's going out remains the same.
Correct.
And that is a message I think I'm really, really hopeful for in the next sort of 7 to 14 days.
Listen, if I was in the UK right now and I was a headhunter and I felt this pressure, the first thing I would do is I would get on the line with all the people that I talk shit about and talk shit with within 10 square miles, and all of you share a single office together for the next 10 months. Right? So just figure that out. Create a co-op, get in there, and just stop the bullshit and stop making fun of each other and hitting on each other, and go share an office with each other. That's number one. Right? Don't go wait in a coffee shop because the coffee shops aren't opening. Go share that right now, and then figure out what else you can share together. Or figure out how maybe after this is over, that then declares itself as an office where you become a joint effort. So because this is going to happen again. This is not the last situation. So maybe you want to think about, how do we design our office moving forward for the future and our business for the future on the other side, as I keep referring to, And maybe your business model needs to change and not be the one that's been sitting out there for the last 30 years. I don't know. Just those are the things you need to think about.
Wicked. And then when it comes to content and brand, and a lot of the people listening won't know where to start, right? And I do a lot in this space. I've got customers that I'm talking to every day, advising. But what's your tips that, without a budget, that recruitment headhunters, agency owners, anyone listening, they can adopt for a short period each day to start engaging people online as opposed to being reliant on the phone?
Yeah, so don't try and boil the ocean. I love the work you do, by the way. I've been a fan for a long time. I would say that get right down into your community really quick. These people are sitting home right now, and believe it or not, I would say that the one social platform that professionals are on are going to be LinkedIn and looking all the time. And there's enough information on the latest coronavirus situation. There's enough information about working, as you said, from a telepresence perspective. Why not offer real industry information on where you're working, what you're doing? And listen, go scan all the headlines and become an aggregator of all the headlines and drop a post 4 times a day. Go on this thing called Google, and if you specialize in, let's call it the cannabis business, why don't you scrape all the headlines at 8 a.m., at noon, and at 4 p.m. Scrape all those headlines and take each of those headlines and the 1,300 characters you have on LinkedIn, put the headline, and then put a very quick 2-sentence summary on there about how that may affect the market when we come out the other side. And then you can probably come up with 5 articles in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, 5 in the evening that would offer tremendous value to the portal, to the industry you're in. There's an idea that costs you no money, costs you time. And then, look, there's no footy on TV right now where you are, right? No. There's no bars open because that's all the people in the UK do, drink and watch soccer, right? And so why don't you do that? That's a low cost, and now you've become a gateway, a provider of information, and then maybe what you do is you get yourself your iPhone, and 1 out of 10 posts, you put your face direct to camera to those individuals and speak to them. That probably could be the biggest impact any headhunter could do and sort of help forecast what's the other side of this look like. There's your answer.
Love it. Love it. Joe, what I would like and implore people to do is to follow you and to check what you're up to. I know we've spoken in the past, and you've been investing in brand and content for a very long time. Just give us a little bit of, we've got 10 minutes or so left. Give us a little bit of an overview as to what's your setup look like now and what you're actually doing. Forget Corona. What's the day-to-day media operations for the Mullins Group look like?
Yeah, I think I counted the other day. I think on the media side, I've got 10 or 11 people. I've got a director of photography and a second camera on that. I've got four full-time editors. I've got somebody who manages my brand. I've got somebody who is admin ops on that. I've got what's called let's call it a data person or a DIT. Is that what it is, Marco? DIT, who ingests all the content. And then I've got an ops person. And they manage all of our content. Now, keep in mind, we do content for clients. Clients pay us a large sum of money to come out and develop their content, independent of recruiting. We shoot the docuseries True Future, truefuture.tv. My brand and my companies. They develop all of that. And so that's a full running company, dragonflystories.com or .tv, dragonflystories.tv, that you can get a feel for what they're doing. And they are putting out content 24/7 on all the platforms. Look, it's a big machine. It's bigger than most production companies, let alone, we've actually become a media company that happens to do headhunting, right? But that's our mindset.
Yeah.
And just so you know, we started with 1 camera 4.5 years ago.
Yeah, well, I like the growth. What made you initially make that decision that you were going to buy a camera instead of just keep finding resumes all day?
So I'll tell it to you real quick. Google and Johnson & Johnson had $1 billion investment to create probably the most complex surgical robot in the world. and they interviewed 20 plus companies, and we were the finalist. And it was to hire around 250, 300 people out in Silicon Valley. And the CEO pulled me in. He said, "Congratulations, you won the contract." I said, "Cool." He said, "But by the way, you can't talk about the robot in particular. You certainly can't show the robot. And everybody who interviews here has to sit in a little 8x8 room and interview and never see what's going on inside of Google. And we want the best people in all of San Francisco, or actually in the world." He said, "You still want to do this?" I said, "Sure." I got on the plane ride home after a couple Tito's and tonic, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I immediately was like, listen, the world is living out loud on social media. I'm going to start telling stories about the surgical robotics market and why it is the emerging market in medtech over the next 5 to 10 years, and why you should bank your career on it. And so we started creating content with 2 college kids, recently graduated, and a very inexpensive Sony camera. But quick footnote to this. First, when I came home, I took the camera in my home office. I set it up. I shot a video explaining what we were doing. I ran inside all proud of it to my wife. I showed it to her, and she goes, "You're a fucking moron. You're going to embarrass yourself. Call up your nephew and have him come in and shoot that stuff for you." And so that's how it got born. And then from there, I just clearly saw it was the way to communicate with people at scale, because historically, recruiting's been a one-to-one analog function. If you're lucky enough to get somebody on the phone, you got 45 seconds to do the pitch. You're always an interruption to their day, and they can't share that information. So what we learned is I could reach 10,000 people a day. Now I reach over 100,000 people a day on LinkedIn, and I'm telling amazing stories on behalf of my clients and our search firm. And so that's how we got into it. And again, for those who say, "Oh, you've got this big machine, Joe," of course. I was like, ladies and gentlemen, I started with 1 camera not too long ago.
Has to start somewhere, right? You can't
Always
just wake up that machine.
No.
I love it. And I think one of the realization I had, which is why I started Hoxo, which is what I tell all of my clients, is that I don't think there's many other industries where people are paid to connect and network with their prospects all day. Like, obviously sales in general, but in recruitment, all of our teams and people and business owners are highly networked online without using it. Like, you find a recruiter that hasn't got 5,000 good quality connections on LinkedIn right now, there's probably not many. Have you got 5,000 good quality Facebook friends? Probably not. Have you got that on Instagram? Probably not, unless you look a certain way. So people they've already made those connections. They do. If that's part of your day job, to connect on LinkedIn with everyone you speak to after calls or whatever, then you've already got that base platform to have influence. It's just then, how do you start to use it? And it doesn't take the production team you've got to make an impact. I think once you see an ROI, it gets you excited, and then it's about where you put your efforts and your finances. But Joe, look, what you're doing is amazing. I think you are very, very much well known in the UK, and I personally will definitely be keeping an eye on what's going on. I'd love to get you on the full RAG podcast when we come out the back of this, where we can talk the whole story of you and the Mullins Group. But thanks so much for taking part in today's episode and giving your thoughts on what is difficult for everyone to deal with. Are you open for anyone to drop you a direct message on LinkedIn if they feel that there's a burning question they didn't get answered?
Yeah, please do. Certainly reach out. Those who know me, whenever I post, I write all my own posts, I write all my own content. And most people who do follow me know I nearly answer every single comment and every DM. And first of all, listen, I want to thank you for connecting everybody and talking people through what's going to be a few months of a very, very difficult time in every industry, but especially in ours. And whatever I can do to you and or our brothers and sisters out there, I'm in 100%.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks so much. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the first episode. We will be back again tomorrow. We're going to be releasing at least once a day, potentially more than once a day. I've actually got 8 episodes booked in to record this week, this being the first. I've got one again in 15 minutes. So I'm committed to giving 50% of my time to this to make sure that you guys survive. So if you like what you've heard, if you've enjoyed the episode, please do get on LinkedIn, share it with your friends, send it via direct message, WhatsApp, whatever. Get as many other people in the same boat to listen and learn, and together we'll get through this a lot stronger. I'll be back again tomorrow. Have a good one.